The amazing world of Gumball looks like a kid's show that threw every art style at a wall to see what stuck. But underneath that visual chaos is one of the most quietly ambitious narratives in modern animation. A story that starts as a family sitcom and ends with the universe literally eating itself. Today, I'm breaking down the entire story of Gumball, from its deceptively normal beginnings to its apocalyptic finale. And it all starts with a family that can barely afford to keep the lights on. Welcome to Elmore Gumball. Christopher Watterson is a 12-year-old blue cat with the impulse control of a toddler near a fire alarm and the confidence of someone who has never once been correct about anything. He lives in the town of Elmore with what might be the most chaotic household in animation history. His brother Darwin is a goldfish who one day sprouted legs, developed lungs, and just became part of the family. Nobody questions this. Their sister Anais is 4 years old and smarter than every adult in a 5-mile radius. Their mother, Nicole, holds the entire household together through sheer force of will and has anger issues that could level a city block. Their father, Richard, is a giant pink rabbit whose commitment to doing absolutely nothing borders on performance art. Here's where Elmore gets interesting. Look at any frame of this show, and you'll see a 2D cartoon cat standing next to a 3D rendered cloud person against a photographic background of a real street. There's a paper bear, a balloon, a literal T-Rex attending middle school. From episode 1, Elmore tells you that visual consistency does not apply here. The rules are whatever the rules need to be. The series ran for 6 seasons on Cartoon Network, with Gumball and Darwin permanently frozen in 6th grade. They never age, never graduate, never move forward. Which sounds like a throwaway production choice, but it becomes genuinely unsettling once you understand what this universe actually is. In these early seasons, the show functions as a family sitcom with recognizable emotional stakes refracted through completely insane execution. A first crush involves Penny Fitzgerald, a sentient peanut with antlers. A bully arc centers on Tina Rex, who can literally bite through concrete. The emotional beats are real. The context is absolutely unhinged, and the Wattersons are broke. Consistently, visibly broke. Nicole's paycheck is the only thing standing between her family and homelessness, grounding these surreal characters in problems that feel uncomfortably real. This is the foundation, a dysfunctional family you genuinely care about, living in a town where literally anything can exist, governed by rules that might be something far more deliberate than they appear. But if you think a town full of mismatched art styles sounds chaotic, you haven't seen anything yet, because the show is about to figure out exactly what kind of chaos it wants to be. The Chaos Machine. Here's the thing about Gumball's first 2 seasons. On paper, they're a sitcom. Kid gets in trouble at school, kid causes problems at home, kid learns nothing, repeat. But the execution is so unhinged that the sitcom skeleton underneath starts to feel like a disguise. Like someone built a perfectly normal house and then filled every room with bees. Before you write this off as random equals funny, hear me out. There's a method here. Ben Bockley created the show from a graveyard of unused character designs he'd originally made for commercials. That's why Banana Joe looks like he wandered in from a cereal ad, why half the cast looks like they were pulled from 6 separate shows and forced to share a cafeteria. Because they basically were. Elmore's visual chaos isn't an aesthetic choice so much as a creative origin story baked directly into the world's DNA. And those backgrounds? Photographs. Real locations around London, composited with digital characters walking on top of them. A blue cat arguing with a goldfish in front of an actual street in Hertfordshire. By season 2, the compositing is seamless enough that you stop noticing it, which is sort of the point. But the real engine of the show, the thing that turns it from charming into genuinely unhinged, is escalation. Take any mundane premise. Returning a rented DVD. A normal show gets maybe 2 complications out of that. Gumball gets house destruction, a police chase, and reality-bending visuals, all within 11 minutes. The show treats minor conflicts like loaded springs and then removes every safety mechanism simultaneously. Episodes start abandoning 3-act structure entirely. Some just end, mid-chaos. No resolution, no lesson, no cooldown. Others pivot into musical numbers or shot-for-shot genre parodies without warning. One minute you're watching a family argument, the next you're in a horror film. The tonal whiplash isn't a bug, it's the entire product. And then there's the fourth wall stuff. Characters reference episode titles, acknowledge narrative conventions. Gumball's imagination doesn't stay in his head, it manifests physically. What he fears, what he exaggerates in a retelling, all of it bleeds into Elmore's actual reality. The line between subjective perception and objective world gets thinner every episode, and nobody seems particularly alarmed by this, which is, not ideal. What looks like pure randomness is actually building patterns, recurring visual motifs, background details that stay consistent across episodes, character relationships that quietly deepen even when individual episodes reset their consequences. The Chaos Machine isn't random, it's learning what it wants to be. But if you think a show figuring out its identity is unsettling, wait until you hear what happens to the things that don't fit inside it. The void. So here's something that should bother you more than it does. In a world where a balloon, a banana, and a T-Rex all attend the same middle school, you'd assume Elmore just accepts everyone. That diversity feels random, organic, like the town has no filter. But it does. It has a very aggressive filter, and the things that don't pass through it get sent somewhere you were never supposed to know about. The void is a hidden dimension underneath Elmore's reality, a vast, glitching emptiness filled with floating debris and forgotten people. It's where things go when they don't belong anymore. Not things that are dangerous, not things that are evil, things that are boring, things the universe decides aren't worth keeping around. And before you dismiss that as just another weird Gumball concept, let me tell you about Molly Collins. Molly was a dinosaur. She went to school with Gumball and Darwin. One day, she just wasn't there anymore. Nobody remembered her. Nobody asked where she went. Because the void doesn't just erase you from existence, it erases you from memory. Gumball eventually finds her trapped inside the void and discovers the reason she was sent there. She was too dull. Her personality wasn't interesting enough to justify her continued existence. In a children's cartoon, being boring is a death sentence. Which is, not ideal. But here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. The void is a direct metaphor for what television writers do every single day. Characters get dropped from shows constantly. Someone isn't funny enough, isn't pulling their weight narratively, and they quietly disappear between seasons. Nobody acknowledges it. The audience forgets. Gumball takes that invisible editorial process and makes it literal. Makes it a place where discarded characters are conscious and trapped. And then there's Rob. Rob was a background character so forgettable that even the animators lost track of him. No arc, no personality, no reason to exist. So naturally, he fell into the void. But unlike Molly, Rob came back. And he came back wrong. His design is cracked, glitching, incomplete, like a corrupted file. He remembers multiple timelines, alternate versions of events, the fact that his entire world is artificial, and that he was edited out of it by forces he can't fight. Rob isn't angry because something bad happened to him. He's angry because he understands exactly what he is. A discarded draft who clawed his way back into a story that never wanted him. He knows the world is fake. He knows someone is writing it, and he knows they threw him away because he wasn't entertaining enough to keep. The void reframes everything. Every character on screen only exists because they passed some invisible quality check. The show looked you in the eye and said the quiet part loud. In fiction, your right to exist depends entirely on whether you're interesting enough to justify the screen time, but if you think the void is disturbing as a concept, wait until you see what happens when Gumball starts actively breaking the rules that hold it all together. Gumball breaks the rules. Here's the thing about Gumball Watterson. He's a 12-year-old who hates being told what to do. He hates rules at school, he hates rules at home, and as it turns out, he really hates the rules of reality itself. Because somewhere around the middle of this show's run, the characters stop just existing inside a cartoon and start noticing they're in one. And Gumball, naturally, treats this discovery exactly how you'd expect a hyperactive preteen to treat unlimited cosmic power. Like a new toy he's gonna break within 5 minutes. It starts small. Characters comment on things feeling repetitive, like they've done this before. Side characters start getting visibly annoyed about their lack of screen time, which, fair enough. But then it escalates. Gumball and Darwin begin physically interacting with title cards. They manipulate the credits. They pause and rewind their own actions like someone handed them a remote control for existence itself. At one point, the show straight up simulates a broadcast interruption, cutting to static in a way that genuinely made viewers grab their remotes thinking something had gone wrong with their television, which is, not ideal for your blood pressure on a Tuesday afternoon. The show starts warping aspect ratios mid-scene, switching animation styles without warning, and messing with channel branding like it's all just set dressing they can rearrange. Entire episodes begin revolving around the mechanics of television production. Characters realize their situations keep recurring because they're trapped in a formula. Some of them get resentful about it. Others just accept their lot in life, much like a goldfish accepting the bowl. But here's where it gets complicated. Gumball doesn't treat any of this like a revelation. He doesn't have an existential crisis. He doesn't sit down and contemplate the nature of his reality. He just does what he always does. Pushes boundaries, ignores consequences, and assumes everything will reset by next week. And for a while, it does. Individual episodes wrap up clean. Status quo restored. No harm done, except the universe is keeping score. Every time Gumball breaks the frame, every time he exploits a narrative shortcut or treats cosmic power like a cheat code, something small cracks. The instability isn't obvious at first. It builds in the background like a pressure gauge nobody's watching. Gumball grows more powerful in a meta sense, able to bend the show around him, but he remains exactly as emotionally mature as he was in episode 1. He's got the keys to reality and the impulse control of someone who eats cereal for dinner. A tragicomic arc forms without anyone noticing. The comedy stays intact. The jokes still land. But underneath all of it, a slow-burning fuse has been lit. Every broken rule is a contribution to something larger. Something the show hasn't named yet. Something that's been watching, but if you think Gumball poking holes in reality is bad, wait until you see what happens when reality decides to poke back. The universe fights back. For 4 seasons, Gumball Watterson broke every rule his universe had. He reset timelines, ignored consequences, exploited cartoon logic like a cheat code, and walked away clean every single time. But by season 5, the bill comes due, and the universe is done being patient. Here's the thing about Elmore. It was never as stable as it looked. The void existed long before anyone found it. Rob was glitching in the background long before anyone noticed. But now, all of it converges into something the show can no longer contain. The fabric of reality, stretched thin by years of casual abuse, starts pushing back, hard. Rob is the canary in the coal mine here. He shows up regularly now, his character model cracked and corrupted, looking like a file that got dragged halfway to the recycle bin and then abandoned. But what makes him genuinely unsettling isn't the visual design, it's the knowledge. Rob references events from previous episodes like he watched them. He hints at futures that haven't happened yet. He perceives the structure of the show itself, the resets, the convenient amnesia, the way nothing ever sticks, and he's furious about it. To everyone else in Elmore, last week's apocalypse might as well not have happened. To Rob, it's all still there. Every violation, every cheat, every time Gumball hit the cosmic undo button and skipped away whistling. And the episodes reflect this decay. Season 5 gives us alternate timelines bleeding into the main one. Town-wide glitches, where everyone's personality shuffles like a broken deck. Knockoff versions of the Wattersons appearing, cheap duplicates that shouldn't exist but do, because the universe has generated so many failed drafts and discarded attempts that they're leaking through the walls. Elmore starts feeling less like a town and more like a hard drive running out of space, fragments of deleted files surfacing in places they don't belong. The void gets bolder too. It's no longer a distant threat you have to go looking for. Now it intrudes. Characters vanish mid-scene. Timelines unravel when someone tries to cheat fate. The show's own reset button, that comfortable cartoon logic where nothing matters and everything snaps back to normal by next episode, becomes the very thing destabilizing reality. Every consequence Gumball dodged didn't disappear. It got stored. And the storage is full. What makes this era so compelling is the tension between what Rob is and what he's trying to do. Is he a villain? Technically, yes. He schemes, he attacks, he manipulates. But he might also be the only character in the entire show taking the collapse seriously. Everyone else treats each episode like a fresh start. Rob treats it like a countdown. He's seen behind the curtain, and what he found there wasn't comforting. It was a universe held together with tape and denial, and he's watching the tape peel off in real time. The comedy doesn't disappear. This is still Gumball. But underneath every joke, there's a new frequency, a low hum of anxiety. The sense that the dam has too many cracks now, and the show knows exactly where this is heading. But if you think watching reality slowly fracture is bad, wait until someone decides to actively tear it apart. From the inside, the Inquisition, every show gets a finale. Most follow the same playbook. Characters hug, loose ends get tied up, the camera pulls back, and you're left with a warm feeling that life will continue just fine off-screen. The amazing world of Gumball looked at that playbook, set it on fire, and then froze the entire cast mid-scream as their universe collapsed around them. The Inquisition opens with Gumball and Darwin returning to Elmore Junior High to find everything has changed. A new authority figure has taken control, and his mission is simple. Normalize everything. Strip the inhabitants of their bizarre designs, their chaotic personalities, their entire identities, and replace them with bland, generic human forms. Classmates who were once sentient balloons, living pieces of toast, and shape-shifting clouds are now featureless, interchangeable nobodies. The color drains out of Elmore one character at a time. Here's where it gets complicated. You can read this, literally, as a villain transforming characters against their will. But you can also read it as something far more unsettling, a commentary on what happens when external forces sand down the edges of a show defined by its edges. Network interference, sanitization, the corporate impulse to make everything safe and marketable. The episode takes that abstract anxiety and makes it physical. You watch characters lose what makes them themselves, and it feels violent even though nobody throws a punch. Gumball and Darwin resist, because of course they do. But resistance doesn't work the way it normally does. There's no cartoon logic reset waiting at the end. As they fight back, they discover this transformation isn't just one villain's scheme. It's tied to something much larger. Rob appears again, the glitching, broken antagonist who spent seasons warning everyone their world is fragile. This time, he's not scheming. He's desperate. And for the first time, his desperation feels completely justified, because the Void is no longer a distant background threat. It's here. It's consuming Elmore in real time. The final moments are genuinely haunting for a children's show. The Wattersons and their friends are frozen mid-reaction. Not dead, not saved, just stopped. The screen distorts. Glitches tear across the image like the broadcast itself is failing, and then it cuts to black. No resolution. No hint of salvation. No post-credits wink. That's it. That's how the amazing world of Gumball ends. 6 seasons of comedy, hundreds of episodes of slapstick and absurdist humor, and the final image is an apocalypse with no reset button. The audience had been trained across 6 seasons to trust that Elmore would bounce back. The Inquisition takes that trust and snaps it in half. And here's what makes it worse. It retroactively poisons everything that came before. Every hint about the Void, every warning Rob gave that nobody listened to, every time Gumball broke the rules and got away with it. All of it was pointing here, not to a triumphant final battle, not to a heartfelt goodbye, to a frozen scream and a black screen. The show that spent years proving it could get away with anything finally proved that it couldn't, which is, not ideal. But if the ending sounds bleak, that's because it is. And yet somehow, it's also the most fitting conclusion the show could have chosen, because what Gumball built across those 6 seasons wasn't just a cartoon. It was something entirely different from anything else on television, unlike anything else. Step back from the Wattersons for a second. Step back from the Void, from Rob, from that frozen cliffhanger. Look at the whole thing at once. What you're looking at is a show that smuggled an entire philosophy of fiction into a children's cartoon about a blue cat who can't stop getting detention. The mixed media aesthetic was never just a visual gimmick, a 2D cat standing on a photographic sidewalk next to a 3D rendered cloud person in front of a live-action texture wall. That's not laziness. That's the show's thesis statement rendered in pixels. Elmore is a world where mismatched things are forced to share space, and somehow it works. Nobody else has replicated this at scale because nobody else committed to the idea this hard. The visuals aren't decorating the story. They are the story. And from season 2 onward, the writing matched that ambition. Internet memes sitting next to classic cinema references, sitting next to gaming culture, deep cuts, sitting next to television satire so specific it borders on insider commentary, all while maintaining actual continuity in character relationships. Gumball and Darwin's bond still means something in season 6. Nicole's anger still has roots. The show never sacrificed emotional truth for cleverness, which is rare enough in adult television, let alone a show airing between cereal commercials. But here's the thing that ties everything together. The Void, Rob's arc, the finale. These aren't just cool plot elements. They're the show using its own medium as subject matter. When Molly gets erased for being boring, that's a literal dramatization of what happens to characters in writers' rooms every single day. When Rob emerges glitching and furious, aware he's been edited out of relevance, he's embodying every sidelined character in every retooled show that ever aired. When the Inquisition ends with the universe collapsing mid-scene, no resolution, no comfort, that's the show acknowledging what happens when a network pulls the plug. Gumball turned cancellation anxiety into canon. I don't know what to tell you. That's just objectively wild for a show on Cartoon Network. The fan communities know this. Years after that finale froze the Wattersons in place, people are still producing analysis videos, debating whether Gumball deserves the same critical respect as Adventure Time or regular show. The answer is obviously yes. But the show's own nature works against it. Too fast, too weird, too genre-fluid for easy categorization. Critics who watched 3 early episodes and wrote it off as juvenile slapstick missed what it became. Their loss, because what the entire story of the Wattersons actually represents is a lens for examining how stories get told, revised, and sometimes just cut off mid-sentence. The episodes that survived became canon, the ones that didn't fell into the void. And Elmore's chaos, the visual clashes, the tonal whiplash, the meta-horror lurking under the comedy, was never random. It was the fingerprint of creation itself. Every contradiction, every impossible combination of art styles crammed into one frame. That's what making something looks like from the inside. Gumball didn't just tell a story about a fictional town, it told the story of what it feels like to be a fictional town, to exist at the mercy of people who might rewrite you, erase you, or just forget you exist. Not all shows get to say something that big. Fewer still get to say it while making you laugh every 11 seconds. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.